A survey of potential Republican primary voters by the Morning Consult showing 67% say they had heard nothing, positive, negative, or otherwise, of Nikki Haley. For Tim Scott, that number's 71%, even leading up to his campaign launch earlier this week. And Mike Pence, who looks likely to announce his bid within the next month, 61% of those surveyed have heard nothing about the former vice president lately. This is despite the fact that all of these candidates have been making cable news appearances, giving interviews, etc. My point is, the more voters actually hear about and learn about candidates other than Ron DeSantis, the more likely it could be that a dark horse emerges in the primary who can beat DeSantis and be a serious challenger for Trump, who himself has been hitting DeSantis on, for example, in his own words, lacking personality and political skill. Look, it's no secret that DeSantis has to work to be likable, is probably the best word, as evidenced by this recently leaked debate prep video from 2018.
I think when you walk up there, if you have a pad, you have to write in all caps at the top of the pad, likable. And just look, I do the same thing because I have the same personality. We're both aggressive.
Contrast that with sort of the warmth of Nikki Haley, charisma of Tim Scott, the calm and professionalism of Mike Pence. It's still really early. So couldn't one of them become the more likely one to take on Trump head-to-head? Let's ask Mick Mulvaney, former acting White House chief of staff for President Trump and NewsNation political contributor. He's also, as you may recall, former Republican congressman from South Carolina, the state where Haley was governor, Tim Scott is current senator. Thanks very much for coming on the program. Appreciate it. What do you make of the possibility that the media is spending way too much time on DeSantis and not enough on some of these other candidates who may have even a better shot?
Yeah, well, it doesn't surprise me, Dan, just because of the amount of earned media, which is free media coverage, and that's the jargon in the business, that DeSantis earned during COVID. As the governor of a large state that sort of went a different way during COVID, he got all that free media coverage, and that's how he built his national reputation. Nikki Haley doesn't have that, despite her work at the United Nations, and Tim Scott certainly doesn't have that. Mike Pence does, but he's sort of in a class by himself. We can talk about that in a little bit if you'd like to. But it doesn't surprise me that DeSantis is getting all the attention because he is sort of just like Donald Trump is the presumed front runner, DeSantis is the presumed lead challenger at this point.
Right, but it seems to me Mike Pence has a different problem than, for example, Nikki Haley or Tim Scott. He's been kind of defined already. Like, it would seem to me it would be harder for Mike Pence to kind of break out than for someone like Scott or Haley. What do you make of that?
Yeah, well, they all of them except Tim Scott have a little bit of that definition issue. Ron DeSantis sort of owes his governorship to Donald Trump. Nikki Haley certainly owes her ambassadorship to Donald Trump. Mike Pence owes the vice presidency to Donald Trump. Tim Scott is by himself. Tim Scott is in that lane where he sort of can be his own person and doesn't have to explain his relationship with Donald Trump because he doesn't really have one. I don't think that by itself moves Tim to the top of the class, but it certainly is an advantage that he has that the others do not. Pence also has this difficulty that the really hardcore Trump people really hate him. And you saw that Trump still attacks Mike Pence for not doing the right thing, supposedly, on January 6th. None of the other candidates have that sort of animosity when it comes to the hardcore Trump voters.
I keep thinking of the kinds of attacks that Donald Trump has been waging against DeSantis. And then I think of this from the New York Times, where it says, donors who contributed to Mr. DeSantis' previous campaigns tell stories of meetings in which the candidate looked as though he'd rather be anywhere else. He fiddled with his phone, showed no interest in his hosts, escaped as quickly as possible. The governor's team have had internal conversations acknowledging the need for him to engage in the basics of political courtship, small talk, handshaking, eye contact, etc. And, you know, the issue may be that once the public gets to know Ron DeSantis, maybe they won't even like him as much. I don't know. This isn't intended to be a beat up on Ron DeSantis. It's just saying that you have very charismatic figures like Nikki Haley, like Tim Scott, who really may end up by giving him a run for the money. And that's all I'm asking.
Yeah, a couple things. Raising money is really miserable anyway. It's the worst part of politics. So it doesn't surprise me that, I mean, I hated it, to be honest with you. So the idea of, fiddling with your phone.
Were you good at it?
Yeah, but it doesn't mean you like it.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.